Hello, I'm Khan Ross. I'm a former British diplomat. I was once head of the Israel-Palestine section of the Foreign Office. I also ran Middle East issues at the UK mission to the UN. I resigned from the Foreign Office over the Iraq War. I'm often asked what is the real meaning and significance of Prime Minister Starmer's announcement that Britain will recognise Palestine as a state in September if Israel does not stop its slaughter in Gaza and commits to a two-state solution. Some see this as a major shift in policy. Others see it as using recognition as diplomatic leverage, when in fact statehood is the inalienable right of the Palestinian people. Their self-determination should not be conditional, particularly conditional on the actions of the forces that both occupy them and today kill them. I'm afraid my feeling is that the question of recognition is a total red herring. Recognition or the threat of recognition won't stop Israel's genocidal slaughter in Gaza. It is abundantly clear that the Israeli leadership is driven by two things, neither of them, incidentally, self-defense. First is to ensure Netanyahu's political survival by keeping the right-wing extremist parties in his coalition and thus keep his government afloat. The other is the clearly genocidal intent of those extremists and Netanyahu too. Their statements to this effect are numerous and clear. They seek either the eradication or removal of the Palestinian population from Gaza and indeed the West Bank. The extremists saw the appalling attacks of October the 7th, 2023 as a chance to advance this cause. Israel has learned from its history that possession, or rather occupation, is 9/10 of the law. First, they drive out the native Palestinian population and occupy their land. The international community huffs and puffs, issues statements and resolutions, but basically does nothing. And indeed, they eventually acquiesce. Note today, for instance, how the international community says not a word about the Golan Heights, which is in fact Syrian territory that Israel illegally occupies. Indeed, they say nothing about Israel's illegal recent occupation of significant areas of southern Syria. If there is ever a two-state solution, any such agreement will undoubtedly cede significant chunks of territory that Israel today illegally occupies in the West Bank, including, in all likelihood, Jerusalem, within the new borders of an Israeli state. That is, if the Israeli government even allows a Palestinian state. And Netanyahu's current position is very clear. They do not. Instead, by supporting the violent takeover of Palestinian land by extremist settlers, their intent to take over the whole of the West Bank is all too clear. Netanyahu has made his career on opposing a Palestinian state. An announcement by Keir Starmer will not change that one iota. Indeed, you can stack all the declarations, recognitions, ICJ decisions, and UN resolutions demanding that Israel leave the occupied territories and accept a two-state solution into a pile as high as the ceiling. They have not made the slightest difference. They have not granted the Palestinians 1 square inch of territory. And look where we are today. Recognizing Palestine today or in September will not change that. We must reject the naive belief that resolutions, declarations, and international law will bring about the end of occupation and create a Palestinian state. The extremists, including Netanyahu, see their military campaign both in Gaza and in violently expelling Palestinians from the West Bank as part of an historic mission to build Greater Israel, or Eretz Israel, including all of Gaza and the West Bank. The extremists who today run Israel will gladly tolerate hand-wringing from the rest of the world. They know that these complaints will eventually die away as their occupation expands and establishes a new reality on the ground. There is only one way that might, and only might, stop the slaughter in Gaza and indeed bring about a two-state solution. That is to force Israel to stop killing and starving the population of Gaza and force it to accept a Palestinian state. What does this mean? It means boycotts. It means sanctions, starting with sanctions on the political leadership, needless to say, an arms embargo, and sanctions not just on Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, the extremists in the cabinet, but also on senior army officers of the IDF. These sanctions might include asset freezes, travel bans, and also we should look at indictments in national courts making use of the universal jurisdiction provisions of international law on war crimes and genocide. The Hamas attacks of 7th of September 2023 were appalling. But what is going on now in Gaza cannot conceivably be presented as self-defense. Hamas today barely exists, and the people of Gaza are all but defenseless. Nevertheless, Israel is bombing civilians at will, shooting them with tanks as they desperately scramble for food, and systematically destroying the buildings and infrastructure of Gaza to render the territory uninhabitable. Announcing that you might recognise Palestine if Israel does not stop this slaughter is an utterly inadequate response to genocide, particularly if you continue to supply weapons to Israel as the UK continues to do. Wringing your hands in Parliament or in useless press statements won't work either. These are mere water off a duck's back. The only point of these statements is to bolster the pretense that the UK is doing something to stop the slaughter. The UK is not trying to stop genocide as its leaders claim. It has in fact enabled it, for instance by providing Israel with intelligence gathered from RAF surveillance flights over Gaza, of which there have been several hundred. The head of the Israeli Air Force was welcomed by military bosses in the UK just a few weeks ago. UK ministers and officials are, as I said in a video recently, complicit in genocide, a specific crime under the Genocide Convention. As ever, look at the material facts, not the rhetoric, and it is not rhetoric or declarations that might stop Israel's slaughter. It is material, substantial measures that must be implemented now.